Many cities and towns in South Carolina are adjusting their budgets and services due to COVID. Today, I talk one-on-one with North Charleston Mayor Keith Summey for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Mayor Keith Summey, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Well, thank you, Quintin. So glad to be here with you as normal, my friend.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. The state of North Charleston is?
We are going along fairly well. We face the crisis that everybody has, a shortfall in revenues. We are operating off of what we do collect. We have not had to go into our undesignated fund balance. Some programs, especially through recreation that are part-time employee related, have not been going on. So that's been of some help to us. Our employees have shifted some of their job descriptions to fill in where we need and what we need. I can't say enough about the employees of the city and how they've worked as a team with us. And our council has been so supportive of the adjustments that we've had to do to make sure that we still provide the things that we have to do. You cannot slow down law enforcement. You cannot slow down fire service. You cannot slow down garbage collection. You cannot slow down doing building inspections and what have you, because quite honestly, the building business has been pretty good. I wish I had stock in places like Lowe's and those type of places right now, because with people not working as much, there's been a lot of home projects done in the last year.
And I know when I went back and watched your State of the City address last week, you said that the city has a nearly $18 million financial shortfall to the budget. Let me ask you this, Mayor, to close that financial shortfall, how are the budget target reductions allocated across departments?
Well, we are still just doing the mandatory things that we have to do. Recreation is one of the areas that we can adjust in. Some of our other part-time positions, we have not tried to do anything that's going to make losing our full-time positions, and our people have worked very closely with us in changing maybe their job description to a degree that they do infill in departments they don't normally work in. I can say that it has been a complete team effort. From management down through the folks that are working in our public works department. Some of our key departments that have to stay going full is police, fire, and our sanitation division, and making sure that the buildings are up to snuff and continuing to move forward and keep them in proper working order. It's been a challenge, but our people that work here within the city have lived up to that challenge and have really come through for us. I'm very pleased with our workforce and what they have done.
And let me dive off to the side for just a second, Mr. Summey, because I want to ask this. What are the underlying economic conditions in your city right now?
Well, we still are projecting probably somewhere, our budget year starts in July. So we're in the 7th month of this budget year. We're still expecting somewhere in the $16 to $18 million shortfall in revenues. We've adjusted where we can so that we can live within those boundaries. We have an undesignated fund balance, but our goal is to not try to get into that undesignated fund balance, because that helps us find the proper interest rates on bonds and things that we're doing. We still have some projects that are moving forward because those were funds that were designated for those projects and can't be used for anything else, such as the walking bridge over at our park on the river.
Right.
Those are one of the things that we're moving forward on. And there are several other projects, but the key component has been to try to still provide all the virtual services that we can, but then all the in-place services that we can to provide everything that our community needs to keep moving in a good forward manner.
And what are those virtual services that obviously the residents should know about?
Well, they can get online to get any information they need. You can get online to apply for permits and things of that nature. Anything that we can do through communication without make sure we have social distancing, that's what we're going to do. But yet here at City Hall, our departments are open, and we have set up distancing rules and regulations, and we test our people often. But it's worked well. Is it a perfect scenario? I don't think anybody's been in a perfect scenario for the last year. And, we're trying to make sure that we get as many people vaccinated as we can, especially our first line people. And we've been working with the different hospitals to offer locations for other people to be vaccinated. It's been a pleasure working with the different hospital groups and healthcare groups to try to keep the costs down on getting these services provided, so that the more people that get the vaccination, I think, is better for all of us.
Now, obviously, you said, "Hey, we don't have to really dive into that particular reserve if we have to." But how much have the existing fees and charges have been raised due to COVID?
Well, we have been a little surprised in that our sales tax is not down as much as we thought they were, and that's probably because of the legislation that was passed several years ago, where online sales still have to do the sales tax. Business license fees in most areas are down, and this is the month of the year that we collect business license fees, because those fees are based on actual sales or actual businesses done. So we are expecting a decline in that. We're not sure yet exactly how much of a decline that's going to be. Sales tax is down some, but not as much as we thought. But then hotel, motel accommodations fees are down because occupancy rates are down from probably 68% to about 35% citywide. And food and beverage taxes from our restaurants are down. Our general fund is only about 48% of it is property tax. We think those are going to be pretty steady. It might be a little down. People may take longer because of financial conditions to pay the taxes, but it's going to be about the same. It's the other 52% of the budget that's flexible. And so we're looking at somewhere probably in a 15 to 17% shortfall in revenue.
And this might be a crazy question, but how strong are your cash balances?
We have a strong undesignated fund balance. We're probably at about somewhere between 13 to 15% of our total budget that we have in undesignated funds. So we have a stopgap. Of course, we don't want to use those funds if we don't have to, because it will affect our credit rating and how we stand with that. So we're just being frugal. We're operating the city just like any other business. We're adjusting to what we have. There has been very little outside revenues that have come in through the federal government or the state to us at this time. We're hoping to maybe see some of that pick up, but there's no guarantees. And if it picks up, it's just a help to us, but it's not going to stop us from operating if we don't get it.
Now, I know, obviously, Mayor, you were reelected in 2019 and now have an annual salary of $193,880, which I researched last night. How do you feel the public looks at your salary increase, obviously before COVID happened, while you had to unfortunately lay off employees?
Well, all of our employees' salaries, except for this fiscal year that started last June, so the elected official salaries went up prior to that occurring, and our employees got that increase that year. This is the first year in a number of years that we haven't been able to give basically a cost of living amount to our employees. But we're very proud of the fact that we have no full-time employees now that make less than $15 per hour, which the minimum wage is about half that.
Right.
We have worked to bring our employees up to where we're very competitive with the private market, with the industries and what have you that we have in the area. so that we make sure we keep first-class employees here within the city.
Did you ever consider giving up your salary for a year until things get better financially for the city?
No, sir, never have. I think that would be an example that everybody would have to follow. I think it's a little reckless if we start doing that. If we ask the council members to do the same, then it becomes a competitive thing across the entire elected market for everyone. I think our job is even a little more difficult than it is normally to do what we have to do. And we haven't asked our employees to give up any pay, and we consider our council and mayor as people that are elected as employees during the time that they serve from that elected time.
And in your State of the City last week, you said you obviously being sworn in last year gives you an opportunity to reflect on what has transpired in the last 4 years. Where does your mind go to when you look at the city right now?
Well, it goes to just keeping the services that we have been providing. We know that some of our plans for this 4-year cycle and improvements of properties and buildings and what have you have slowed down. But that's something that we have to adjust to. It's no different than running your budget at home or running your budget in a business. At the end of the day, you have to operate off of those funds that you have. And if you don't, you're going to get into a form of financial difficulty. That's why we don't want to get into any format where we have to borrow money to operate the city because that money has to be paid back. There's no such thing as a free lunch. And so we're going to operate off of what we have and still provide the services to the general public and also make sure that our people are compensated fairly for what they do.
And let me turn back to the re-election. Obviously, in your nearly 30 years in office, who has been your most formidable opponent in your previous elections?
What was it now?
Yes, sir. In your nearly 30 years in office, who has been your most formidable opponent in your previous elections?
All of them. Anybody that runs to me is formidable.
Wow.
And so, you work to, I don't consider anybody that's run against me as an enemy.
Okay.
It's their right to run. And if they were to win, I would support them in their role because I love this city. I think we've made some great movement upward in my terms of office. I enjoy serving the people of the city of North Charleston and look forward to continuing to do that for a number of years yet.
So do you hope to face, what opponent do you hope to face in 2023?
Nobody. I mean, if I were to tell you I want an opponent, I don't want anybody to run. I know some people will, and it really doesn't matter to me who they are.
I know you mentioned that you grew up in Union Heights. From my recent research, Mayor, you generally receive 80% of that vote from the area from that particular area every election. However, in the last election, according to data, you received roughly, I believe, 20% of the vote, and apparently your opponent received 80% of the vote from Union Heights. Are times changing there, or are the demographics changing?
Well, I think it was that we had a number of people running. I think we had 5 people in the election.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, in the city of North Charleston, it's the person that gets the most votes. I think there was a major effort put forward this last election to change the leadership within the city. I still won by a good margin over the person that was closest to me. So I didn't expect, people need to vote their heart, vote their conscience, vote their mind. And I don't criticize anybody for doing that.
Now, let me turn back to the city of North Charleston. Obviously, as you mentioned in the State of the City, 646 illegal guns were recovered by the North Charleston Police Department in 2020. Where were those illegal guns located, Mayor?
A lot of them were from juveniles and most folks under the age of 30 that we confiscated those guns from. And they were through either just normal traffic stops or calls that we got into neighborhoods. And it still is only a very small portion of the number of guns that are in the streets, unfortunately. We would like to get a better handle on it, but quite honestly, most of these guns are not coming in through retail sales. They're coming in from other marketplaces.
Now, those traffic stops in neighborhoods, where were those illegal guns found during those traffic stops, and where were those neighborhoods that they heard about when it comes to those illegal guns?
You would have to talk with the chief. He's got all that data. He just comes to me and tells me what he needs, and my job is to try to provide them the revenue and materials they need to do their job.
Now, unfortunately, the city is still a crime capital of the state, Mayor. How do you look at Chief Burgess's performance right now?
Oh, I think he's done an excellent job. You know, his hands are tied to some degree, as I think all law enforcement's hands are tied to some degree. But, you know, at the end of the day, we take the tools we have to do the job that we can. And I think if you look at the everyday activity in life in all of our neighborhoods, they're better than they were 5 years ago. The pandemic has created a little more extra time for people to have, and time sometimes creates negative action. And our goal is to work through the schools, which has had a trying time. You don't have as many young people in the classroom as there was. And as my daddy used to say, idle time makes the belt come out, boy. And he did. But at the end of the day, I think it just takes the whole community working together. We have actually seen, I think, a better response from the neighborhoods to the law enforcement people in the area. Our goal has been to develop relationships within those neighborhoods where police officers are looked up to instead of looked down to or looked at as a threat to them. We don't want them to be a threat to anybody. We're there just to try to make sure that their quality of life in their neighborhoods are safe, and that their kids have a great place that they can go out in the streets and play and have a good time without worrying about some type of crime occurring in those neighborhoods.
Now, I know the police department in North Charleston, according to stats, are mostly Caucasian. So with a city that's mostly African American, Mayor, where is the diversity in your police department?
The diversity is strong compared to most police departments in the area. And, you know, our chief goes out trying to recruit as many people as we can. And quite honestly, with all some of the negative stuff that has occurred in the last number of years, trying to make it look like police departments aren't working within the communities, as sort of a stigma on folks. It's been difficult to hire people. But we've been able to pick up some excellent young people that are wanting to go into law enforcement, and we will continue to be as diversified as we can to hire folks of color to serve within our department, both male and female. I think if you would look at the number of females we have within our department compared to other departments across the country, it's a very good position that we're in.
And I know you talked earlier about the chief. I know in every city in the state of South Carolina, obviously there is a strong, obviously with a strong mayor form of government, the police chief reports directly to the mayor. But in North Charleston, that's not the case, Mayor. I read that your chief actually reports to your special assistant. Why doesn't Chief Burgess directly report to you?
Chief Burgess responds directly to me. I have conversation either through the phone or through text or in person with him probably 6 days a week.
Okay. What was that organizational chart like before he was hired?
Well, it used to be we had 2 assistants and now only have 1. And so some of that went directly back to me.
Okay. Let me turn over to Riverfront Park. You also mentioned in the State of the City address about housekeeping at Riverfront Park and that there are changes that you are making that you want to get right. What did you get wrong first with Riverfront Park?
Well, the Riverfront Park was designed in a way that didn't work well, like the bathrooms in the park area. They were supposed to be extremely environmentally great, but it did not work out best for the environmental. It was very difficult to maintain. It actually took away some of the open space or events that we have out there. So we have taken those out and leveled that area and have changed it, made it more open. We're now doing a walking bridge over across the creek to the other side. Most people don't realize that's part of the park as well. So we're looking at the future where we could maybe have a major event in the section where the stage is.
Yes.
But then across the creek, it could be still being used by the general public while the events are going on in the other, because we just want to make sure that we have park space for the people in the city of North Charleston all the time. And as you know, with events like our 4th of July, we don't charge our citizens to come to events like that. So we try to make it as open as we can so that we can get 10,000 people out there for a major event and be protected and feel safe, but still have the amenities that we need to serve those people while they're there.
And some of the accomplishments in the city that were actually made in 2020 was the opening of the North Charleston Aquatic Center, which is in partnership with Dorchester District 2. How much money has the center generated for the city in Dorchester District 2 so far, Mayor?
I don't have those numbers, but as you know, we hosted our first statewide meet, which was wonderful, except for the fact you couldn't let people in to look at the event. Right. So you don't make money off of events like that. Where you make money, that facility has 1,000 seats in it.
Yes.
It has a full working concession area. And we toured places across the state and in adjoining states. No one had what we've got in this facility. And we have people wanting to come utilize the facility for state and maybe even regional type events. But until we get through the pandemic where we can get people that pay to come and enjoy the swim meets that are going on, then that's when we'll start seeing some revenue come in more and more on that.
And let me move from City Hall to just right down the street to a place that's really named after you, the R. Keith Summey Medical Pavilion. And as you know, the MUFC Children's R. Keith Summey Medical Pavilion offers comprehensive specialty clinics, outpatient surgery, diagnostic imaging, infusion procedures, and support services such as lab and pharmacy, and urgent care to one convenient location. Take me back down memory lane, Mayor. What was the process to allow MUFC to agree to your name to be on that pavilion?
Well, that wasn't a process. Their board decided. I didn't seek it. It didn't matter to me. I was more interested in us getting the facility for our people. They chose to name it after me. At the end of the day, quite honestly, 20 years from now, nobody will know who Keith Summey was or is, maybe still be around. But, you know, the issue is our goal is to make sure that the people, the citizens in North Charleston have an opportunity to have that service. And we did not have adequate service for children here in North Charleston. I'm very proud of the fact that we have this because it saves parents money. They can take their kids here as long as it's just an overnight service that needs to be done where something is done to the child. The next day they can go home. They no longer have to go in an area where parking, you pay to park. And if you have to lodge for overnight, this area is just ideal, I think, for that. And I think you'll see it expand to where they actually are offering the same type of service to adults as well.
Now, what was the process to donate the land which the pavilion currently sits on to MUSC?
We bought the property. Council voted to buy the property and donate it so that we could get them located here for the people of the city of North Charleston. We think it was a wise investment. They have another piece of the property is still there. There's a timeline in which if they don't build something that serves the people of the city of North Charleston, then that portion of the property would revert back to the city.
Now, what is the exact timeline?
I think it was a 10-year time frame.
Oh, okay. Let me go back to the state of the city, obviously, because you described the growth in North Charleston during the state of the city as a dream come true. How can you continue to realize that dream with smart growth?
Well, we have seen, I think, people developing in the inner city portion of North Charleston. Right. We've had some growth in the outskirts, but we've seen a revitalization and more people, more homes being built, even in open areas I don't know if in the city area around Park Circle, how many lots are still available for development. Everything that was available, people have built. We've seen new developments come in to replace old developments. And we're seeing that spread further south now.
Yes.
And further north. So the concept is to let's do as much infill as we can that will serve the people who work within this area, keep the travel down. We're not opposed to what's going on in Nexton and areas like that. We hopefully it's going to be people who we've created new jobs up in that area through new plants, new activity, that they're able to live close to where they work. I mean, that's just the ideal situation. Right now in the peninsula, we're trying to create the mass rapid transit to get people to work because there's not adequate parking for people to go down there. The cost of them parking is enormous. And what we've got to do is try to make sure that we develop neighborhoods that serve the folks. If you look in the old village section, those apartments that were built back in the back, young people today, your age, you're a lot younger than me, and down actually look for places they could probably even walk to work or ride a bicycle to work. And so we're trying to blend, and it's difficult when you've got older neighborhoods. We're trying to blend those where those things do come together and work. But we've been fairly successful. We're looking to do more in the Rivers Avenue corridor.
Oh, yeah.
And so the challenges are there, but we're up to the challenge. It's not going to be done overnight. It's a time-consuming prospect that we have to work with, but our staff is constantly looking for ways to enhance the quality of life of those people who live here in the city of North Charleston and those who move here into the city of North Charleston.
And what are the current demographics of your city?
We're probably somewhere in the 120,000 range. When I became mayor, we were around 50,000. After the shipyard closed, we lost about 10,000 credit of personnel from people who were assigned to the base to live. But we've seen some consistent growth. With growth comes issues, but we've lived up to those issues. We've tried to maintain an affordable tax rate. Our property taxes in the city only generate somewhere between 45-48% of our budget. The rest of it comes from ancillary revenues from people who visit in the city of North Charleston, hotel, motel accommodations fees, food and beverage taxes, property taxes on retail establishments, and commercial operations within the city, their taxes and their sales tax that they collect, business license fees. So we try to keep as little burden on the people who call North Charleston their home every day and spread it out to help cover the cost for the growth that we've had without burdening those folks who live here.
Now, Mayor, let me ask you this. How many city contracts were awarded last year in 2020?
I'm going to be honest with you. I do not have that information in front of me. You would have to get that through our purchasing department and look at the number of contracts that were let.
How diverse is the contract awarding process in your city?
I can tell you that we have a system by which we reach out to minority businesses to have an opportunity to bid on contracts that we have. And I think we've been able to enhance those numbers, but to give you the direct numbers, I do not have that.
Now, I know you probably might not know this even, Mayor, but how many contracts were actually given to African Americans in 2019?
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Okay, but let me ask you, I hate to ask this question, but it has to be a blunt question. Is North Charleston becoming an all Caucasian city, or is it becoming an all African American city?
I think we're pretty diverse as any city in the state of South Carolina. I would say you probably have a slight more than 50%, around 50% African American. You have a percentage of people that are Hispanic American, yes. And then you have Caucasian, and then you have European. I think we're a great mix, probably the most diverse city in the state of South Carolina.
And I know that there's unfortunately a lot of homelessness, particularly around the south end of the city. Has North Charleston ever received any funds to build, say, a homeless shelter?
No, we actually contribute to the warming shelter on Remount Road. We just gave them a donation of $25,000 to help cover their costs in the warming shelter. I think they're only able during the pandemic to house about 40 people a night, and we work with those type of people. We are working to create some workforce living housing in different communities and neighborhoods around the city, so that we can be as diversified as we can to make sure that people can afford to live. The number of people that are living on the street right now, we have worked with a lot of them trying to help them find places. Some folks don't want to. I mean, they're there by choice, but those that do wish to have help, we try to find every way we can to accommodate them.
Now, with less affordable housing in the city, will more African Americans and other races be affected by that, Mayor?
I think the affordable housing is for any workforce person. We were just looking at a proposed plan for about 200 units, that the average payment would be somewhere around $800 a month for purchasing the property, which is in today's market is a very reasonable, fair amount compared to even rentals within the area. So we're trying to encourage workforce housing to whatever degree we can, and it's according to which geographic area you are in the city. Those areas like in Park Circle where people want to or buying as soon as something goes on the market, it's a little more difficult. We can't tell people you can't sell your house for what you can get for it. It makes it very difficult. Before new housing construction, which in the inner city is limited compared to the outlying areas, because you got to remember a lot of our areas were already developed when we became a city. We're only 48 years old as a city compared to many other cities that are 100, 200 years old. But we are trying to work within those areas that are already there to create affordable housing in those areas, and also create an environment in which people want to live in those areas as well.
And how many permits have been given for affordable housing, say, in Russellville?
How many what now, permits?
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I know that is an area that we are working on to see more housing develop in that whole Rivers Avenue corridor along there. That's part of the concept with the bus rapid transit system.
As a matter of fact, will the I-526 Low Country Corridor West project decrease the number of African Americans in your city?
I have no idea. We haven't been given that information. I don't know that it will or won't. I think it will actually eliminate some of the spaces directly around the property, but we're working with the state, and they're really working with us to help us relocate those people in the city of North Charleston in an affordable rate of housing compared to what they were already living in.
And I know Metanoia obviously does a great job of helping out with housing in the city. What percentage of the community development block grant funds have they received over the past 4 years?
I don't have those numbers with me either. It's very little. They have worked with us in doing some upgrades of properties, but they subcontract a lot of that out. But to be honest with you, those monies are federal dollars, and those federal dollars have been limited in the recent years to what they were at one time. Excuse me, my phone is ringing. Let me turn it off. Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
So it's, you know, they do a good job for us in the core Cherokee area, and helped us in some of the outlying areas too, in home rehabilitations and things of that nature.
Now, you may not know this too, Mayor, but how many homes in North Charleston have Metanoia been able to purchase under their name?
I have no idea.
Okay. Now, I know that obviously many years ago you all promised a grocery store if the city had to build it. Why hasn't the store been built just yet?
Well, we still have the 2 acres for it to be built on, and quite honestly, hoping that the rehab that's going to be going at the old Naval Hospital across the street, right, and the new county facilities, a new library, and the new Carter station that's going to be built there is going to help us generate investment by someone wanting to build a grocery store. We have the land for it.
You have the land for it. And how much was that land purchased for?
It was part of the whole property that we had, and everything else was sold off except the 2 acres. We maintained the 2 acres.
Now, did the city receive $1 million to assist with a grocery store?
No.
Okay. And let me stay on the South End, because how do you connect that particular neighborhood with other city programs?
One more time.
Okay. Yeah. How do you hope to connect the South End neighborhood with a lot of other city programs?
Well, our recreational programs are as strong there as there in any other neighborhood. Law enforcement and community response in there is greater than it is in a lot of the other neighborhoods. And we work very closely with the school in that area to be supportive and work with the kids in that area as well. I think that we are doing a lot in the south end of the city. If you look at the number of designated man hours that has been given, that's probably one of our heaviest areas that we are engaged in.
And what other accomplishments do you hope to complete in 2020 for the city of North Charleston?
Well, 2021.
I'm sorry, 21.
Where we are, we've got other projects that we hope that would be coming online, and that would be 2 new senior centers. One in the north end of the city off of Dorchester Road area in Dorchester County, and then one in the southern end of the city down in the Shakur area.
Yes.
We're still working with the public rails. They're supposed to build a new gym in that area as part of the agreement they had. So we're trying to push forward with a new gym in the southern end of the city as well. So we're constantly looking for ways to enhance the quality of life of all folks. And a lot of that is within the southern boundaries of the city with what's going on now in the Rivers Avenue corridor with the upgrades that are coming there. Right. Reynolds Avenue, we've been actually purchasing property to create parking spaces off the street. Study was done with the people who live there and have businesses there. They're wanting to create Reynolds Avenue from Spruill Avenue to Rivers as a no parking on the street, where it's more of a walking environment. We are seeing people that are now investing and hopefully going to create an environment like Reynolds used to be for the people who live in that area to have a place to shop, a place to eat, and creating more of a livable neighborhood.
Now, with that, let me go back to obviously the police department, and you just talked about a study. Let me ask you this: when you look at that racial bias audit study, Mayor, what surprises you so far?
I think that our department has been working very hard to be more open to all types of folks, working with folks, enhancing quality of life for all folks within the city. We don't believe we have anything that we need to hide, so we are open to having this study and these ideas. Anybody that's not open to new concepts and new ideas are not working to the full extent of what they should to enhance change. We don't know everything. And while we think we may have some great programs, and we know we do, there may be other things that we can do to enhance that. And so that's what we're opening ourselves up for this study, finding ways that not only do we know that we're doing the best we can, but we're perceived as doing the best we can within those communities as well.
Is there racism in the North Charleston Police Department, Mayor?
I think there's racism in every walk of life in the world. And I think it's a two-way thing. People have a tendency, the more we get to know each other, the more we get to know more about each other, the more we realize how much we do have in common and can work together and make sure everybody is treated equally and fairly. That's the goal of what we're trying to do. And we look forward to the day that we can say we're closer to that goal.
Now, have you given Chief Burgess any tools, leeway, and resources necessary to get rid of that potential racism in the department?
everything that he asks for is open door, and he knows that he can come discuss it with me, and we work very closely together. And I think our goals are on the same line.
Mayor Keith Summey, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, my friend, and hope you have a good year.
Likewise, hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.